Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Inside Story podcast, where we take you behind the scenes of building diverse businesses and becoming a successful entrepreneur. I'm your host, Dursun Halimova, a business coach and facilitator on a mission to help build impactful businesses. Today, my guest is Esther Celosse, who is a career advancement expert and leadership coach. She founded two companies. Esther is a founder and CEO of Focus2Progress, which is founded in 2013, where she provides executive coaching and mentoring to business leaders and those developing and advancing their careers. She's also a co-founder and CEO of Return2Career, where she and her team create opportunities to employers to find, hire, train, and retain experienced professionals. Esther is also an educator. She is an adjunct professor of management in EMBA programs. Esther, it's great to have you on the Inside Story podcast. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Dursun. It's really an interesting topic. Entrepreneurship, wonderful topic.
Yes, so I'm very much excited and looking forward to our conversation. And just to briefly mention to our audience where I met you at my first ever live TEDx event here in Luxembourg, which happened months or so back. And the TED Talk is live. Our listeners should definitely check it out. There you shared insightful ideas and motivated and inspired a lot of the audience members, including myself, to use our career break to advance or boost our careers. So this is great to have you on the Inside Story podcast. I will start off by reading few unfinished sentences, and I would love you to finish them for us, please.
Let's try.
Being an entrepreneur means
being alive.
Building an impactful business requires
a lot of energy, stamina, resilience, adaptability, and love.
Love is important. Failure is
try again.
Success is a result of
not letting go, just going on.
Mm-hmm. Being fulfilled in life means
being able to love and being loved.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Esther. I appreciate it. Can you briefly tell us about you as well as the two businesses that you're currently leading?
Okay, I'm a Dutch-born national, born and raised. Explains a lot about my cultural heritage and therefore some of my, let's say, behaviors. I'm married with Rainier, and Rainier has been with me for 32 years already. So we're all this couple that can finish each other's sentences. He's also, since a year and a half, my business partner, which was new for us. We have never worked together. And I have to say, this is another additional adventure to being entrepreneur together. I'm a lawyer by education, and I started my career in the financial industry. So I've worked there for about 22 years. And it was quite amazing because that career gave me a lot of opportunities to move around the world. So I've been living and working in many different places in the world. And but also make that actually we feel actually global citizens, as you say. But since 2009, I stepped out of that corporate career and decided to become my independent in whatever shape and form. And that for me, it means entrepreneurship basically. We still moved country couple of times after that time. But now, to be honest, we are already 11 years in Luxembourg. So something has changed somewhere in that story. And we recently moved to another house here in Luxembourg, a little bit more up to the north. So I suggest we can stay here even longer than the 11 years. Like you said, so I'm driving two companies, one Focus2Progress and the other one Return2Career. And basically they're both actually to promote in some way or form empowerment of either employees or employers towards a fulfilling career, and to also feel themselves having an added value to the society.
Amazing. Maybe I will ask a follow-up question because I think it's pretty interesting. I often hear it is very challenging to start build or even work with your partner, right? Let alone start a business together. So if you don't mind
No.
briefly sharing with us, how has that journey been for you? Because you kind of alluded to some maybe challenges, right? How was it for you? Was it difficult? Was it not? And how do you manage to separate, if you do at all, right? Separate the personal relationships and business, and especially when you run your own business. I keep hearing that your company, your business becomes your life, right? So it becomes even harder maybe to separate like work and life, and especially if your business partner is your life partner, maybe it also makes it a bit challenging. So tell us, how do
Yeah.
you do this?
Let's start at the end. So that's the whole story about work-life balance, let's say. So there is, I mean, the good thing about having the new generations coming in is the rethinking of work-life balance, because actually it's not work-life balance, because it's kind of like it's like either or. This, which is not
Mm-hmm.
the case. Work is part of life, and so it's, for me, it's work-life integration. And I have taken that already since I started for myself. So in 2009, very open-minded. So for me, there is no weekends and work days. For me, I work whenever I want to work. I need to work, and I have free time whenever I want or need free time. So the rhythm of work life is not separated. It just is continuing. That reality I've taken as my life way. And that also took my husband, of course, in that sense, for the past years in that same way. So for me, and therefore now for us, there is not really a division between work and life. It continues. It's a one discussion that will go on and on and on. And that's fun, actually, because we do this because we have fun. And actually, it's also how we decided at one point to start working together, because we wanted to have the fun, that same fun together. Let's try how that
Mm-hmm.
would be. Now, the challenging part sits in the fact that we are very different. So we are very complementary, if you want. So that's the good news. We're very complementary, both in character and in skills and competencies. But there's hardly any overlap. So where I finish, he starts, or the other way around. So, and that makes it sometimes a little bit harder, because as there is so little overlap, too much is also a challenge. But so little overlap means that we are very different in how we think to our teams and look at things. So the communication, be clear in your communication, is very important. That sometimes is a challenge to get that right. But I have to say, it's very fulfilling to do this, because this is true sharing of a same purpose. So yeah, it's deep, let's say. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, I can relate in terms of this work-life integration. I'm also in the stage of my life where my work has become such an integral part of my life. Just like you, I also work whenever I want, whenever I have time. And the advantage is I can also, as you said, take vacation whenever I want, or if I'm not feeling in the mood, I can just take a Monday off, right? Which is quite difficult if you have a full-time job. So that is one of the perks of being your own boss. So you, is that already alluded to your background in terms of financial sector? So you worked in leadership positions in the financial sector as well as in higher education for a number of years. Tell us what triggered or what influenced your decision to make the transition from full-time job to having your own business. Because I think for a lot of our listeners, it might be the case that they do have a full-time, stable, well-paying job that is very difficult to leave and pursue their dreams and build a business. Were you scared to make this leap? Did you predict where you would be where you are today, both as a person, but as well as a business? And you mentioned you started in 2009, right?
Yeah, I think for me it was a natural leap to take, in the sense that I have been very fortunate, I have to say, that working for an organization that gave me a lot of opportunities. So one of the things I could do, I'm typically someone who sees new opportunities and sees gaps in the market and loves to be creative and innovative. So I would often recognize needs that we could fill with new services or in new markets even, or start new product lines or areas of expertise. If I was able and I worked hard on that to convince the management of the goodness of the idea, they often gave me the opportunity to work those ideas out, meaning that actually that took me to a lot of different parts of the organization and different parts of the world to work on executing on those ideas that I had myself. So basically, to state it, I was an entrepreneur. So within the organization, I was an entrepreneur in an organization, entrepreneur. Didn't being very entrepreneurial, but yeah, in this case, was the money for somebody else and the risk for somebody else, basically. But there was at the one point in this organization, was a very large organization, had a lot of mergers and acquisitions going on. So it was a constant change as well. At one point fell short, let's say, in their existence. So they started to dwindle as an organization. So I was definitely be looking at what I wanted to do now. And now for me, it was kind of like an obvious step to step
Mm-hmm.
up entrepreneurship into the entrepreneurship and try that out. So yes, there was a leap. No, it was not even as much as my own decision as the circumstances that made it, make my decision, take the decision now. A fear? No, never, not one moment. And to be honest, full-time positions in general, so as I see it, it's not necessarily security at all, right? I mean, with all the differences, the changes in society, the layoffs that are happening, how secure is your full-time job anyway? So it's not about security necessarily that it's keeping you into a job. It's much more the fulfillment that you have in that job or that position. If that's not enough anymore, then that change, whatever change it is up for discussion. And then if you have some drives in you that you still want to try out, want to fulfill, then making the leap into entrepreneurship is not a bad thing to try.
Indeed, indeed. It kind of seems obvious, right? Like that, especially if you have been an entrepreneur within the organization, you've already have, I think, the essential kind of ingredients, right? The mindset, the attitude, openness to risk and challenge, and maybe also failure, right? And lack of or minimal fear, or doing things without the fear. But it is still a factor holding a lot of people back. This is something that I constantly hear, either in my conversations, one-on-one on coaching, or whenever I go to networking events where professionals who are interested in entrepreneurship, but for whatever reason might seem not to have made the choice, right? So,
Yeah.
and I agree that full-time job doesn't necessarily mean security. And I think during COVID, we have witnessed that, myself included. I lost my full-time job from one day to another, and I was unemployed for 8 or 9 months. And it really impacted my self-perception as well as my confidence. So indeed, full-time job does not equal to stability and maybe even financial security necessarily.
No, and the thing is, if you really have a good idea of what you want to do, then it's definitely easier, of course, to make that step, to take that leap. I always say for those who are in a current position and are not unhappy, so they can still go to work without feeling completely drained when they get home. Is why don't you make that choice now? Why not start an entrepreneurial journey next to your job? Put your 2 toes in the water, right? Feel the temperature, understand how it feels to be in that pond, to be surrounded by water, but without having the safety raft already tied loose and drifting away. So there's many different ways how you can start becoming your entrepreneurial new self. To be honest, in the adventure of Return2Career, we also have, if you look at the career break talent pool, there are a substantial number of those profiles actually are ex-entrepreneurs who have basically very early decided to jump the ship and to start a new venture. But find out in 2 or 3 years that basically they were not cut out for being an entrepreneur, either because the business they had chosen that was not theirs, or because they just don't feel at home in being in entrepreneurship. And that's a discovery that you then find yourself in, and that's not weird. That's not strange. It's not for everyone to be an entrepreneur.
Indeed, yeah. And maybe let me try to connect this to our earlier conversation where you mentioned that you have your portfolio career area, which includes 2 to 3 business activities. And having this portfolio, as you said, helps you to focus and pick the right opportunities while letting go of others. How does one go about picking what to focus on and then being content with that decision? Because it is very difficult to say no to a lot of exciting opportunities.
Yeah. Also, the necessity for me to have a portfolio career actually grew out of having no not enough time basically to say yes to everything, and having having a criteria base to know when to say yes. So that's one. And secondly, the activities I do somewhere were related, and I needed to see better how they were related, and then make sure that it stayed related. So the return to career is everything to do, of course, with the career break. Talent pool, bringing them back to the organization. So that's much more B2B if you want. The focus to progress is actually more on the human side, on the profile side, if you want. Anyone in a career wanting to further develop, so leadership development and career advancement. So that's the other side. So it complements each other. And then the third one is 100% education. So that's where I am as a professor of management at different universities and or executive education and more other activities that are related to full, let's say, higher education elements. That's it all in there. But it also is still very much on the development of leaders and managers. So it all ties in necessarily nicely together. But it also means that sometimes something will come up that is not related to any of it. And, if you only have 24 hours in a day, then you have to make sure that when you start putting the effort in, that it makes any sense for the person you do it for and for yourself. And this is helping me at least to make those choices better.
Yeah, it's incredibly difficult to be able to differentiate between what is a yes and what is a no, especially if both seem, at least on the face of it, equally exciting, right?
Yeah.
For myself, when I started my entrepreneurial career, I was mainly a solopreneur. And when I just embarked on entrepreneurship, I thought I have to say yes to everything. And I found myself with 2 challenges. One, I overcommitted myself. So I said yes, yes, yes to many different things without taking into account the workload, the timeline, and so on. And I found myself, in a position where I had so much stuff to do. I felt overwhelmed, and I felt as if I was back in my full-time job when, with a number of deadlines and feeling stressed and overwhelmed. And then the other challenge was, because I said yes to opportunities that came along at an earlier stage, then I came across opportunities that were really exciting and right fit for me, but I couldn't take them on because I've spread myself thin and I had no capacity to do so. I think it's very important, as you say, to be able to figure out what are your areas of focus. And I think, unfortunately, or fortunately, we have only 24 hours and we can't do everything. So I think having the criteria, some kind of a criteria to help us decide what is a yes and what is a no, is very important, especially as a business owner.
That's also how people will be able to recognize you, right? It's also quite important because if you start doing all kinds of stuff that is, left, right, and center, then people will not be able to understand anymore what you could be them for them. If they're looking for a certain service or support, They will not do that. They say, "Oh, your little box," because your box is a chaotic box, and they don't know whether you could or could not. But hopefully, what you can.
Indeed, indeed. And let me go back to another point, which is very much connected to this, because with the need to focus and prioritize also comes the challenge of staying relevant. You mentioned in our previous conversation that entrepreneur's job is to be or to provide a solution to someone else's problem. In this day and age, when the trends, the needs and wants, aspirations are constantly changing, how do you stay relevant and especially as a business and manage to add value, to continue add value?
Yeah. So your ear on the ground is constant. So you always have to have your ear on the ground, meaning that within that area of expertise that you are functioning, that you have to read and listen to everything that is happening all the time, but with the curious ear, right? To understanding what's different from what I knew before. So that means that sometimes you see the same information that you've heard before, but maybe there is a slight difference there already in accent. So really start listening for the differences and acknowledge that there are differences, that you may be in the wrong drive of the lanes, so you may still be on the highway, but maybe you're not on the right lane anymore, so you may have to make a small tack towards being in the correct lane again. And so sometimes it's about for very small changes that you have to make to just stay relevant. And sometimes you just have to acknowledge that the area of expertise you're in is changing fundamentally. I mean, if you look at the current artificial intelligence development, it does definitely mean that some of the people currently delivering all kinds of services may have to rethink completely what that service package should look like, and whether maybe part of that service package actually is already being taken over by other types of tools that people can use, and what makes you then still be able to be unique and delivering added value on top of that package that is already out there. So it's constantly understanding how more or better or different you can do what you're already doing. A lot of people, they have a great idea to start with, and then they fall in love with their own idea of what they can do and can deliver, which you need to do. You need to fall in love, because it will cost you a lot of energy and time and effort and money to get it out there. So it has to be worth it to do that. But being too much in love will make you not want to change it anymore. And so you also have to kind of like fall out of love a little bit at one point to want to see where it could be better and to be different.
That is obviously easier said than done.
So,
right? As you said, we do fall in love with our business ideas, and especially if we have poured a lot of energy and resources into it. In economics, it's called sunk cost, right? When we have invested so much that we don't want to back off now because we feel like all of that investment is a waste. So we continue pouring in our resources, although maybe it doesn't make any sense. Do you have any recommendation, any tips for entrepreneurs who are building, who might already have a successful business, but they are in the stage where they have to make a change, right? Or maybe they're just building a business and the idea they are so much in love with are not working, right? It's no one is buying. So they have to pivot. They have to either completely change or rethink the way they're doing their business. Do you have any strategies that you can recommend? Like, how does one go about being realistic and maybe also taking the emotions out of it, if it's possible, right? Being kind of realistic and also rational, basing your decision maybe on the market as opposed to what you think should work.
Yeah. So one of the things, if you start any project, and it doesn't have to be an entrepreneurial project, but any project within organizations, is the best thing to have at the beginning is a clear idea of what success looks like. And that's put down in a matrix. So what does success mean? So when can we call this project a success? How will we recognize that? What kind of numbers or other measurables should there be for us to indicate, yes, we're going in the right direction, no, we're not going in the right direction? You have to do it right from the start. It's kind of like, it feels it's very bit disappointing to have to do this. It's like you draw up your divorce papers before you get married, before you come to anyone asking you, do you take, you already have drawn your divorce papers. But the thing is that as long as everything is still okay, if there's nothing happening, well, the emotions are still low. Well, the expectations are high, but the emotions are still low. I mean, you're not desperate yet. You haven't spent all the money yet. Is that it's easier to put out objective criteria, objective matrices, and then you have to just start measuring. And this is the hardest part, to start measuring. I know a lot of people who have difficulty of the finance picture to have a good view of what comes out and what goes in. If you at least make sure that at least once a month or once a 2 months or once a 3 months, that's slow. That's the max, I would say. You do a full overview of where you are, what you have as matrices that you have to put beside up front. Then you can also have an idea, okay, this is going right. We're on our way. It's not going as fast as I was hoping for, but I'm seeing a trend. Or, well, this is hurting. This is really not good. It's going to cost me too much. I cannot sustain this to make it even successful. Even if I see it in the future, I'll never reach the future it is made of spending. It is important though that you have a purpose. If you don't see your purpose anymore, then things start to get sour. Right. So if you're losing your passion, if you're losing your purpose because it had to change so often already because of reality check, then you might have to just hold, not say stop, but hold, pause, and then rethink together with others. Because sometimes your perspective, your view is getting muddled by everything that has happened. So bring in other people who will look with you and think with you and discuss with you to get the outside in view on what's happening.
Indeed. I think one of the best things sometimes one can do is to pause.
Yeah.
Just to pause and to listen to internal, external voices, right? And just to try to reflect and be realistic, which is at times very difficult. Let me now shift slightly to discuss some of the challenges you might have experienced while building your two businesses. Have you experienced any particular setback or challenge that you encountered that while building your business that you had to overcome, and how did you navigate through that challenge?
The main challenge, and I think I'm not the only one in that, is that, well, I've learned in the meantime that your main business, basically, whatever you do, is sales. So whatever service or product, whatever you want the clients to have, you first have to make sure that clients want to have it. So although you may not see it as your main business, actually it is 80% of your time you should be spending on sales. Now, for me anyway, sales is not my dada. I really don't like it. I'm certainly not a hard salesperson. So for me, that costs so much energy and so doesn't give me much, but of course it's necessary to do. So that was the first biggest challenge, to find out actually that's what I need to be doing all the time. And then the whole squeeze comes in, is that if you do sell, you have to deliver. And then you find out that the preparation for your delivery, although the delivery may not be, huge amount of time, but the preparation for the delivery costs so much time. Every time again, it's a surprise how much time it costs. And that time, you actually, most of it, you cannot really push towards the client as a remuneration topic. So that means 80% of your time you're doing the sales. You only have therefore 20% of time of delivery, but of the 30%, you spend at least 50% on the preparation. And then we have one big chunk of things that need to happen, admin, that's not even in there. So it's actually the squeeze of making sure that there's a continuation of work. Because of course, if you're doing the delivery, your sales stops. At least in my case, being a solo entrepreneur, your sales stops. And if you have a large assignment, that takes a lot of time. You're away for a couple of weeks or months even doing that assignment. and then you stop to sales. So chances are then when you will get back, let's say, then you have to start from scratch again because there is no new assignment waiting for you. So this loop that you get into is, I think, the biggest challenge for anyone starting as a solo entrepreneur, which you can solve at one point, hopefully, if you have enough financial freedom, let's say, to do that, to get a second person or third person in. But then you have to be very careful how you do your sales again, because often in sales, and I'm sure you have the same experience, they want you. You're selling it. They believe you. You convince them. There's this trust element that comes in, and then they want to have you. And we said, no, there's going to be my. No, we want. Yeah, but okay. And so, to see what I mean. So it's actually that. And then if you do have one point people who are going to help you in one shape or another, it's managing people. That suddenly will take so much more time. So it's the squeeze, actually, of you having your purpose, your passion, your idea, the service, quality, delivery model. But actually, if you're doing it well, you cannot do it anymore because you are actually having to need to do other stuff. So that's, I think, that's the main challenge entrepreneurship in general, and was for me as well, which made me decide, and I had decided actually already years ago in my corporate life as well, where a happy manager of teams. That's exactly what I didn't want to do anymore. So I didn't want to grow a large team anymore, because I knew that it would mean that I would be doing that all the time. I prefer to be a leader, and it doesn't have to be with a span of control before being a manager, which does include the span of control. So it therefore made for me the decision easier to decide on the format of my company and the size of my company as well.
But do you ever consider having another person, like hiring or growing your team? Because as you said, it's so challenging. I can only relate to the challenges that you've listed, because you basically have to wear all the hats at the same time, in a way, sometimes. And having worked now with your partner in one of your businesses, do you see the difference being solopreneur versus at least having another business partner?
Yeah. Well,
What are the
I've
differences
had
for
other
you?
activities before, so this is quite recent that this is only in Luxembourg. But still, yes, I have had, let's say, people coming in, and working with a partner is already different, of course, than having an employee. I will definitely then kind of like have different business activities where that I would put that person into one, responsible for one business activity.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, to be honest, as soon as I start to grow beyond, let's say, 2 or 3 people, I am planning to sell, because that's not what I'm exactly what I said. So my aim is not to grow because I'm not wanting to be this manager. My aim is to grow, but then have a business that is worth selling. In that case, it will grow via others, and I don't have to have that, say that's that challenge of having to manage then the organization. I prefer to have the founding part, let's say the beginning part, but the growing part is less interesting.
And you did mention that although you are solopreneur, for the most part, you've been a solopreneur, you've worked closely with others. You've partnered with others where you've either worked on a common project, where you found other experts who could kind of complement. So in a way, you try to maybe overcome the challenge of not having a team and work as a team by partnering with other business owners, with other experts. How did that experience go for you? Would you say that is a way forward for solopreneurs who are experiencing these challenges? Like maybe they want to work on a bigger and a more ambitious project, but they're alone and they know they can't handle it on their own. Would you recommend then looking into partnerships and working with partnerships? And if yes, are there any pitfalls and challenges that come with that?
Yes, I advise to work with partners always. I mean, you should not be as it's definitely a trap and a pitfall to think that you can do everything yourself and be expert in everything. That would be that doesn't really always help. Let's put it like that. So now working together with other people who are actually a little bit more expert in some things than you are is very good. It's also good for your clients, and it is good for your own learning because you see them do stuff and say, wow, I knew how to use that now, but this part is additional. I did not know that. So it's good for your own learning, and it is much better for your clients. Of course, there's always the challenge of working together because, of course, different styles, different ideas, different perspectives, a lot of communication needed. So the normal challenge of working with people together is going to be there. The type of partnerships, that is quite interesting. I've had many different partnerships over those 13 years. And to be very honest, that's always a challenge. The thing is, how do you work together and how well is communication going? We had a partnership with, I think, 8 individual small companies, some of them Solopreneur, not all of them, all with different areas of expertise, and then within let's say all in the HR domain, let's put it like that. So you had executive search, and you had training, and you had coaching, you know, and different elements around, let's say, an HR theme. But the thing is, and this is also how we always start. Like, we have a client, we can all chip in with our little expertise, and it's going to be so great, and we're going to pitch our full story to the client, and they can pick and choose who they want to have, what services they want to add to their portfolio, blah, blah, blah. And the thing is, who gets the ownership of the client and who brings in that new client who will then have these multifaceted lead aspects to it. And it has been till now, every time the deadfall actually of a partnership is the client ownership story. Who brings in the clients with the commercial story, because nobody wants to do sales. Nobody. But they all want to be part of the cake when it is being divided. And then you have the investment element. So we need to have one website. Okay, so who's going to take care of the website? And what can we pay for that? So there is this part of the story makes it pretty hard to build partnerships and to keep them well and healthy. That actually means that one person should actually be driving that. That will be lucky. And if you can agree on who that is going to be, and that person will be compensated for, really, as an objective compensation, so not based on the results, that might then work. But yes, it is definitely, like I said, it's kind of like contrary. Yes, do go work with partnerships, but being very aware of the amount of work that gets into making a partnership work.
And do you have any strategy to, first of all, to choose a partner? How do you know who you work with? And then do you have a secret how to make the partnership work?
No secrets, unfortunately. I think that would be lovely to have. I should write a book about that then. No, it's the roadmap, the one secret sauce. It does have the big question is how compatible or complementary are the services that you both can bring. So that's, I think, first. Because if that makes sense for the client, then that's already a huge plus. And then the second thing is, of course, can you work together as individuals? Because of course there are numerous topics that you have to, numerous decisions you have to take, numerous challenges you have to overcome. And that means that there has to be a certain amount of friendliness there and willingness to work together. And you don't have to be friends, but there should be friendliness, really, not just having a complementary skill set. It's really being happy for the other person if they can do something as well. It's a certain amount of, giving somebody else the benefit. But it is. I would not advise to start a business with a friend. But it is very likely that if you start a business with somebody or become a partner with somebody, that they become a friend.
Indeed. I couldn't agree more. I like how you put it. You don't have to be friends, but there has to be some level of friendliness in the partnership, in the collaboration. Esther, this was amazing. We have touched upon so many different topics. It is time to start wrapping up the conversation. And I would like to ask you, for our listeners, do you have a take-home message? What would be something that you would like them to walk away with?
I've written it down for you because I found it was important to think about this. Have you read maybe the book The Infinite Game from Simon Sinek?
I haven't read that book, but I'm very familiar with Simon Sinek. Yeah.
I definitely kind of advise anyone to read that book. It gives you a good idea or a good feeling anyway about how purpose-driven business will make it easier to survive. It's what it says, and this is quite. It doesn't feel maybe as logical to you. Entrepreneurship, he says, entrepreneurship is not about building a successful business. It's about focusing on the higher purpose that your business is aiming for, and that's more important than the high profits or short-term goals. Of course, you need short-term goals and you need profit to stay alive. But you always have to look at the trends. If you have a purpose and you have defined your business around building around that purpose, then as long as you see that there is a meaningful trend towards achieving this purpose and goal, you're on the right way. It's not about winning or losing. This is what he says in Infinite Game. It's about having a winner and losers. I think that if you're in business, you're not in winning the business. You're not ever going to be a winner, but you might having a winning business, which is delivering on your purpose and on your goals. And as long as you have that clear, and as long as you don't put profit first, but achieving your goals first, that will help you much more in being an entrepreneur and staying an entrepreneur for a longer time. And that's what I would like to give the audience.
I mean, that's a great message. Know your purpose and be in the infinite of entrepreneurship. Obviously, different people have different definition of what success means. For me, first and foremost, impact, which is so much related to the purpose, right? So going beyond the profit, but thinking in terms of the people and the planet. That is, for me at least, that's what impactful and successful business means. Esther, this was a very wide-ranging, insightful conversation. Thank you so much again for joining us on the Inside Story podcast. I appreciate you taking the time to share your story with us. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.